What's up, guys? It's your girl Rivah, and I am back again with another video. This is a conversation that was brought up to me so many times on my Instagram, in my Instagram DM, which if you are not following me on Instagram, my Instagram is at RIVAH_JORDON. But there's so many people who brought this conversation to me and wanted to hear my opinions. Now, I believe the reason why they wanted to hear my opinion on this is because they have seen me, recently agree with Stephen A. Smith in regards to the conversations regarding, basketball and Caitlin Clark. However, they wanted to see my take on this particular situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press play so you guys can get the gist in the background of this conversation. And then I'm going to, pause and play and give you guys my complete, unfiltered opinions about this entire conversation as a whole.
That slap right there, how much you want to make a bet it does. And this is why I wanted to have this discussion with y'all. Because I want to emphasize that right now, as we see Will Smith and Martin Lawrence on the circuit promoting this new film, once upon a time, you couldn't find a bigger fan of Will Smith than me. Martin Lawrence, you can't find a bigger fan of Martin Lawrence than me. Ladies and gentlemen, in all likelihood, I'm going to go see Bad Boys, Ride or Die. Because I'm such a huge Martin Lawrence fan. And believe it or not, I still will never stop being a Will Smith fan. I'm not surprised at all that pre-sales have simmered. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it ultimately plummeted once all is said and done. And you know why I feel that way, ladies and gentlemen? Because I think that I'm speaking not for everybody, not for most, but at the very least millions of people out there when I say what I'm about to say. I'm not nearly as interested as seeing Will Smith in the movies than I am of seeing him doing an actual sit-down interview with somebody to explain why he did what he did. Now, I want to emphasize this. Will Smith apologized just days after that infamous slap on March 27th, 2022 at the Oscars in writing. Then he went on his social media platform, I believe it was Instagram, 4 months later, at which time he apologized again to Chris Rock, articulated that he reached out to Chris Rock's people and and was told that Chris Rock wasn't ready to sit down with him. That's not what he wanted to do. And if you don't believe me there, hear for yourself.
I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk, and when he is, he will reach out. So I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk.
Fair enough.
So okay, let me just get into this quick part, and then I'm going to press play and we can let him continue. So the first thing that I want to say is that, okay, the situation that happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock was absolutely insane, right? Like, that was something extremely wild that we had never expected to see from the likes of a Will Smith, right? Knowing him as like being like our cousin, our uncle, like our family member, watching him on Fresh Prince, like watching him grow up, watching him in music and movies. He was a pillar in the community in which we could say, what a good, wholesome guy with a good, wholesome family. And I just think little by little, all of that started to fade based off of the things that happened, especially surrounding the whole Jada Pinkett Smith with the entanglement, right? Like, that whole thing started a domino and a spiral effect of crumbling the image that people had in their minds of this great actor, right? Because it came away from, instead of looking at the art, we start now looking at and analyzing that person in their personal space and in their personal attributes, not because of, somebody random bringing things up, but because of the actions of his wife. I can personally say that right now, when I saw the promotional tour that was going on for Bad Boys, when I saw Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, my first genuine unadulterated thoughts, again, some people might agree with me or disagree with me, was I am so happy to see Will Smith in the news or on social media, and the conversation has nothing to do with his wife, with the drama, or with his personal life. It is now, the focal point is now being put right back onto the work. That was my real strong feelings and opinions about the entire situation. I was happy to see that. I noticed that Stephen A. Smith had said something about the numbers were plummeting or low. I think it was before the box office released all of the numbers over the weekend, which they ended up pretty much breaking even within the first weekend of releasing the film, which, is a signal for huge profit if you, over 2 or 3 days you can break even for how much you put into the film. That's actually an amazing thing. So again, I do want to say that I noticed that Stephen A. Smith is talking about Will Smith needing to sit down and talk with somebody. One thing I know is that I've always heard this saying, if you embarrass me publicly, you should apologize publicly. I think that Will Smith has done that. He did do it in writing. He did a verbal apology on video, so it can't seem like anybody, just came and typed up something for him or wrote something for him. He did own up to the fact that, he did something wrong. He was accountable for his actions. Although, as Stephen A. Smith is personally talking for the Black community, I genuinely feel there was a large portion of people who were completely supportive of him in that action because he was, quote unquote, standing up for a Black woman. So it was not 100% across the board where people are like, yo, you're tripping, or people, just turned a blind eye to Will Smith in that regard. I think that the portion of people who actually were upset about the situation was definitely not the majority. Because when I went on Shade Room, when I went on all these places and I saw the comments at the time that situation happened, there was so many women like, yes, that if your man if my man don't do this for me like Will Smith did for Jada, I don't want him. Like, there was so much support and admiration for what he did. And in that same space, he could have used that to not apologize, but instead he still did apologize because, he felt like that was the right thing to do. I'm going to press play because I want Stephen A. to continue in the things that he's saying, and then I will give you guys more after.
Normally, under certain circumstances such as this, as egregious as this was, as much as Will Smith deserved to get his ass kicked for what he did, being a bully, somebody that's 60 pounds at least heavier than Chris Rock, I don't think he would have done this to Mike Tyson. I don't think he would have done this to Jamie Foxx. I don't think he would have done this to Snoop Dogg or 50 Cent or somebody like that. He knew who he was doing it to. And that's the personification of a bully. And in my opinion, he deserved to get his ass kicked because of that. Back then. But it's not just about Chris Rock. See, as upset as I am, and still remain to that degree, that's because Chris Rock is my friend and I know him. But that ain't the only reason. The biggest issue that I have a problem with, and I'm not saying or advocating any kind of violence like Will Smith deserves that now that all of this time has passed. But at the very least, the Black community especially deserves seeing Will Smith sit down. I don't care if it's with the Breakfast Club. I don't care if it's with Oprah. Because it ain't going to be me, right? You ain't going to sit down with me. Because some questions going to get asked.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If Will Smith was on Club Shay Shay, I think that would be record breaking. I think a lot of people will watch it. Okay, if he decided he was gonna do a Club Shay Shay interview and talk about certain things, and dig deep into that whole time span of his life when it comes to the entanglement and the this and the that, if he decided to do that, I definitely know it would be record breaking. A lot of people would watch it. And again, Stephen A. Smith is talking from a place of Chris Rock being his friend. And I think that in that situation, it's genuinely true. Again, I personally saw that there was a way more support for Will Smith in that situation than there was for Chris Rock. There were not a lot of people who were saying, oh, I feel so bad for Chris Rock. There was more people saying, oh, well, he made such a terrible joke. I can't believe he would say that. That's terrible. He's sickening. He's that. He did not get the same rallying behind him that Will Smith got because maybe, people were more of a fan of his. He has a bigger, a broader audience, again, because people are talking about, protect black women, and they wanted to stand behind that. The sisterhood loves to stand behind when women are doing their foolishness and men support them. So it could absolutely be that as well. But it definitely wasn't an even playing field. So again, although Stephen A. Smith is talking from a perspective of the black community, I don't feel that the entire community or even a large portion of it was, influenced or inflicted in a way that they decided that they were absolutely never going to support him ever again. I don't think that was ever something that I saw on social media, or even anything that led me to believe that would be the truth.
But I don't care who it's with. You got to provide an explanation as to why that happened. It can't be that you went to therapy and you learned the error of your ways, or you've addressed some of the demons that were plaguing you mentally and emotionally and spiritually. That's not good enough. And even though we weren't the ones that were slapped literally, ladies and gentlemen, figuratively, the black community was slapped.
I agree with that. Okay, I 100% do agree with that. I agree that the community was slapped because we had two icons on the stage at the moment. Not to really get into it, but just to remind everybody what happened. We had two icons at the stage at the moment, two people that, we grew up with and loved, and adored, and in the world of comedy. And, Will Smith was initially even laughing at the situation. Then he started yelling. Then he got up and he, assaulted Chris Rock, and, everybody was taken aback. His own wife did not even support him in that moment. She's like, well, he got to go through whatever he's going through. And then she turns around after, when she was just recently selling her book, and decides to say things like, oh yeah, I knew we was back together after he assaulted somebody for me. Like, it's just tumultuous and toxic. And he was going through a lot at that time for sure. Like in the media at that time, he was going through a lot for sure. It was definitely, I think, an ego punch, a gut punch at that time. And it was only amplified by the situation when he said something to his wife. And there's all this focal point on Will Smith and his wife and who she's been with, and Tupac and August Alsina. And it was just so much drama and foolishness. So I can definitely see that he was going through something at the time. However, one thing that I wanted to mention is that I think that whenever it is that men go through things, go through situations, or make mistakes, I want to just emphasize this. It is very evident and very clear that when men make mistakes, they are not at all provided, not even in the least bit, the same amount of grace that women are provided. I just want to make that inherently clear. Okay, we can agree on a whole bunch of other things. We can disagree when it comes to the realm of sports and basketball. That's foolishness. But when it comes to men and the support of men and the understanding of men and being a woman who is compassionate for men and again, understanding, it is very true that men can go out and make certain mistakes or make certain decisions that are not beneficial, and it will be something that is labeled across them for all time, whereas a woman can make that same mistake or 10 times worse, and people will completely forget about it. She'll be welcomed with open arms, people will forgive her, and nobody has anything to say about it. For example, I'll just give a couple of examples. One example is Amber Rose, right? She talked all this stuff about, Trump and how horrible he was and all these things. She was so nasty about it. Turns around, sings a different tune, and people are so supportive of her. And now all of a sudden she's the voice of truth and reason all of a sudden, because now she's saying something different. You'll have women who will go through their 304 phase and the foolishness and that, and then turn around and try to advocate for being the spokesperson of relationships or whatever the situation is. And people are looking at you like, but girl, you're the one who led all these women astray. You're the one who said all these things. Again, welcome with open arms. Like, people can blatantly do things and people just leave it alone. Amber Heard. Right? That's the whole situation happened. It's never spoken about again. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody thinks about her. Nobody barely mentions it. But when it comes to the situation of men making mistakes, and even if they are accountable immediately after, even if they're like, you know what, I was tripping, I lost it, or whatever the case is, there is not the same amount of grace. And I think it's important that that amount of grace is offered. I do think so. Because before all of this foolishness that happened in regards to the entanglement and all that, we've never seen this man act out of character. We've never seen the foolishness, the drama, the problems. We've never seen anything toxic based off of the things that he had done before. That situation happened. It's been years later now. Again, I'm happy to see that the focal point is on the craft. I'm so happy about that. I love that when it's now on the media, no one is talking about the drama besides, this situation right here. No one is talking about the things. Everybody is kind of gracefully moving forward. What I love for that, there to have been a space that, Chris Rock could have had that opportunity within the time frame to speak or share his piece. Of course, I know that he did a stand-up thing, but he never fully, 100% addressed the situation. Maybe he just wanted to move forward as well. It was very humiliating for him. I can only imagine. And the same thing for Will Smith. He did what he did online. He did a public apology. He personally reached out. It was not accepted. The only thing that this man can do is move forward. I think it's important, especially when focusing on also men's mental health, is that in both of these situations, the severity of it was very strong. There's consequences on both ends. There was a lot of consequences that Will Smith did face based off of the situation, especially in regards to, I don't think he can ever go back to the academy, I think for like 10 years, whatever the case is. He's obviously forfeiting being able to even be nominated or win certain awards based off of that situation that happened, and again, Chris Rock, I'm sure his mental health was impacted. There was other comedians who were impacted because based off of this action, other people thought it was right for them to go ahead and take matters into their own hands. It was just a lot of foolishness, a lot of drama surrounding the situation. But I think that there is spaces that people are allowed to move forward. And I think that there's also spaces where people are, in some cases, allowed to separate the art form from the personal life. And that was the beauty of like back in the day, the 90s, before social media, is that the focal point, stayed and remained on the art and not necessarily on people's personal business and what people personally had going on to the forefront. So again, like I said, I personally am happy that, again, that it's not, the focal point is about the art form. It's especially for the support for, Martin Lawrence coming back on the screen. Like it's just something that's amazing. A lot of people are in the box offices actually buying their tickets and watching the movies and supporting the film. I think that's amazing. And I'm convinced that Chris Rock putting out anything, if he was in a film or decided to do anything, people would also show that same support and rally behind him in some sort of fashion as well. You know, as I said, they did the stand-up comedy thing that he did. He got a lot of support for it. So, you know, I think that, again, there are consequences. There's going to be some people who, you know, Will Smith has lost them as fans forever based off of the action that he did. And that's a point of, you know, people are right to have their own feelings and opinions about the situation. However, again, I just really, in the space of holding women accountable and also understanding and supporting men, I just think it's very important that we focus on how tilted the scale is. That, you know, when a woman does something, it can be overlooked, overthought about. You know, no one cares anymore. We move on. We accept you with open arms. And with a man, it's like you're stamped, you know, with whatever mistakes that you make for life. I'd like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Do you care? Do you not care? Do you think about it? Did you not think about it? Did it change your support for him? Did it not change your support? What is you guys' opinions of that? Just put it in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in the next one. Love you.